Hi, my friends. So excited for this week's topic because it's definitely one of the foundations of manifestation and of bringing in more abundance into your life and how to do that specifically in business. And specifically, if you have a service based business, you are going to want to listen to this episode and dive in because we're going to talk about value creation and what value actually is. We're going to talk about some of the misinterpretations of it and what it actually is and how to use it in your business to allow your business to thrive, to allow you to thrive, to allow you to increase your income, increase your abundance. All that good stuff really stems from value creation in business. So we are going to dive in this week. Now, I said it's a foundation. Now, why is that? It is a foundation of the manifestation process around money because of this universal law called the law of compensation. Now, you may have also heard of this as called the law of giving and receiving. And this universal law states that you get what you give. Let me say that again. You get what you give. Now, this law is always working 100% of the time in your business. You get what you give, right? And it's working whether you believe in it or not. It's kind of like the law of gravity. Like there is gravity holding us down on this earth, whether we believe in it or not, whether we see it or not, it's always at work. It's always there, right? And same with the law of compensation or the law of giving and receiving. You always get what you give. Now, you've probably heard about this. I mean, if you've studied any religion, spirituality, you see threads of this all over the place. In fact, there's even a quote in the Bible that says, "Give and you shall receive." So that's the law of compensation right there. If you want to receive something, you must first give it. And this really works for anything, right? If you want to receive more abundance, you must give more abundantly. If you want to receive more love, you got to give more love. If you want to receive kindness, give kindness. And we know this because, right, energy attracts energy. So it makes so much sense. But there is a lot of things that come up when I'm coaching entrepreneurs where they get tripped up around what value means, what value creation means. In fact, one of the top questions that I get is, Jamie, you tell us like we don't have to hustle for results and we don't have to overwork, but I'm not making the kind of money that I want and I'm putting value out into the world. So doesn't that mean that I need to amp up my value? Doesn't that mean I need to spend more time on it? Doesn't that mean that I need to put more value out in the world, AKA spend more time, AKA the more time I spend on value creation, the more money I'm going to make? And the answer is no. So that's why I want to dive into this topic today. It's not about the amount of hours you spend on value creation. It's really about the quality of the value that you put out in the world. And I'm not just talking about value in terms of skills, although that's a big part of it, right? You have to develop your skill around whatever it is that you do, and that's going to make you more valuable. It's going to make what you put out in the world more valuable, but also the energy in which you are creating from really matters. It matters big time. When I say energy, I mean when you're creating something and putting it out into the world. Let's say it's like an email blast that you're sending out. I'm going to give you a specific example of what I mean by the energy behind it. When you're sending out an email, think about the difference of when you are thinking, I just need to get this out. I need to check this off my to-do list. I have 12 more things to do. Let me just write an email really fast and get it out there because I need to add value and I need to get this out there and I need to do more things. And you just write something up, put it out there, right? Is that going to be really that valuable? Maybe, but probably not. If you're just thinking, I just need to get this out, you're not really putting much thought, much intention into it. Versus if you're thinking, okay, who's on the other end of this email? Who am I talking to? What do they really need to hear today? What's going to resonate with them? What's going to inspire them? What's going to make a difference in their life today? And you put some thought into it, and your intention behind it is, I want to serve, I want to help, I want to make a difference in their life. Notice the difference of those two emails. One is probably going to be much more valuable for your person, your ideal customer or your client, than the other one. And that's why it's not really about the amount of time you're spending. It's about the intention behind it, the energy behind the value that you are creating. And I want to share one of the most powerful energies that you can get into that I have seen being very, very effective, having coached hundreds of clients at this point on this, and really seeing massive shifts in the way that their businesses run, their businesses thrive, their businesses get results. And one of the most powerful energies that you can put into value creation is service. When you come from a place of true, genuine service, right? True, genuine wanting to help the person on the other side, that is felt by people. I feel it whenever I'm receiving that. I feel that from people, and I'm like, I want to hire you. You care. You actually want to, and I'm actually getting help ahead of time. So service is such a powerful energy to tap into before you start creating value in your business. So that's the first thing that I wanted to mention. But I think it's really important to just remember this law of compensation, because when you remember this law of compensation, that what you give is what you get, you really never have to worry about money again. Because you know that if you want to increase the amount of money that you're making, you just have to amp up the value that you're putting out in the world. You have to amp up service, right? And that can feel really good. It can feel really good to get yourself into the energy of service versus into the energy of, I just have to hit my goals, I have to make money. That energy is just not helpful. People can feel it on the other end. So I highly recommend tapping into service and just reminding yourself often of the law of compensation, that if you create value in the world, you will receive it back. It's universal law. It must work that way, unless there's two ways that it doesn't work. And I see this where people are putting a lot out into the world, but there's two reasons that law maybe will be blocked in some way. And number one is when you do not allow yourself to receive, when you feel uncomfortable with receiving, or when you don't feel comfortable making offers and exchanging value for money, you believe it's wrong to make money or you shouldn't be making money, right? That's going to block this law from working properly. And maybe you'll be getting things in return, but it won't be in the form of abundance, or it won't be in the form of money. And the second reason is just about your belief about your ability to make money. When you do not believe that you can make money, when you do not believe that you can receive, and you believe it's wrong to receive, your subconscious is going to block you from doing it. So after working again with hundreds of entrepreneurs at this time, I see that being the only two things that kind of get in the way of the law of giving and receiving. But if you clean those up and you decide that you are worthy of receiving, and in fact, I'll do a part 2 of this. I'll do a whole episode on receiving just in case that's you. But when you do fully open yourself up to receiving and allowing it to come in and allowing it to be easy and really just leaning into that, you can remind yourself the law of compensation is always working. If I want to, hit a higher income number this year, it's just time to amp up the value. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, is how do you amp up the value? What does that actually mean without hustling for it? So I'm going to go through a bunch of different ideas for you. And I think this just might be helpful, even if you take one of these ideas away and implement it. it will make a huge difference in your business. So I'm going to go through all of the different ways that you can create more value in your business. Number one, I think an important way to do it is to know who you are talking to. Know who your ideal customer, ideal client is. Have a strong idea in your mind of who that person is and what they really need. What they really need in this moment. What is it that they're struggling with that you can help them with? And really speak directly to that. Speak directly to that one person. It can be so helpful. Not that you're only talking to one person, but there are so many people who are struggling with the same thing. And so I think it's powerful when we have one person in mind, because of course, when we speak to that one person, it will speak to many people, but it will allow you to communicate in a way that is just so much more direct and clear and valuable to those people, right? Because when we try to talk to everyone, our message is diluted. You probably heard the saying, when you try to talk to everyone, you talk to no one. And I've seen that, right? So it can be really helpful and actually help to amp up the value of your services or of what you are providing if you know directly who you are speaking to and really get to know that person. And maybe that person was like you 10 years ago, right? A lot of times niches are like you and what you went through. So go back in time. Remember, what were you struggling with? What did you want at that time? What did you need to hear? What did you wish you had? And speak to that. And if it wasn't you 10 years ago, I know for a lot of people, you're like, my ideal client was never me. I don't know. It can also be helpful to just study your clients a bit, understand them more, understand. You can do market research to get to know what do they need support with, where are they at right now, and really provide that to them specifically. And that's going to make what you're doing more valuable. So you can see here how that doesn't take more time, right? That's just being more intentional. So it doesn't take more time to speak to one person than it does to speak to all the people or try to have a message land for everyone. But it definitely makes what you are saying way more valuable to your person. All right. So another one, this is actually a concept that I try to live by in my business, and it's be the person you want to buy from. Be the person you want to buy from. I think about that a lot, right? Because we do hear lots of noise and we hear you should be like this and do it this way. And for me, I like to go through the filter of would I want to buy from someone like that who had maybe those rules or did it in that way? Does that resonate? Does that feel like love? Does that feel genuine? And in the context of a coaching business, I've asked myself that question, like, who is it that I like to buy from? And you can ask about that anywhere. When you go to the mall, who is it that you like to buy from? Why do you like to buy from them? What is it that stands? And just practice those qualities yourself. Practice being that person or providing that service yourself, and it is going to amp up the value of what you are offering. So in the context of a coaching business, I always like to buy from someone. Number one big is like their energy. Do they have good energy? That's something that I really resonate with, or does my energy resonate with theirs? I tend to like people who are excited about what they're doing, who you can genuinely tell likes to do what they're doing, and they're happy to be there and they want to be there and they want to help. That makes all the difference. Just that enthusiasm. And it doesn't have to be over the top enthusiasm. It's just the energy behind what they're doing. You can tell they want to be there. They want to be doing it. And I'm like, yes, I can feel that from you. I want to buy from you. I also, in the context of coaching, I personally love to hire someone who I can get a taste of what they do ahead of time. So maybe I'm able to see one of their coaching calls ahead of time in some way, which is also why I now, once in a while, I'll do like free coaching calls to my community, because I'm like, hey, people are probably thinking like, maybe I want to work with Jamie. I've heard her podcast, but I don't know. How does she coach? So I love to be able to provide that example, because I am practicing being the person I'd want to buy from, is to make sure like, hey, let's make sure that I resonate with this person. I also love whenever people have a taste ahead of time, right? Like maybe free resources. Maybe I can go to their Instagram or one of their social media sites, TikTok, something like that, and get a taste of what they do and who they are and maybe what their values are. And it doesn't have to be like specific, like these are my values, but I just get a feel for what the person is and maybe even get some help ahead of time, right? Maybe the things that they say land for me. So that's what I like to think about. And you can think about that no matter what your business is. Are you being the person you'd want to buy from? Is that who you are showing up as? Because that is going to increase value. That is going to make you more valuable. So think about that. And in fact, you can even do an exercise and write it down and say, who do I like to buy from? And how can I practice being more of that type of entrepreneur? Now, another one when it comes to value creation is don't attach to the outcome. Give abundantly. When you give abundantly, you are giving from a very pure place. You are not giving from a place of, I'm giving just to get. I'm just here to get, right? It's like, no, give from your heart. Give abundantly. Give help. Give support. When you do that, people can feel it. And the other thing to remember when it comes to the law of compensation or the law of giving and receiving is that it is not always a direct correspondence. Meaning that if you give abundantly, it will come back to you in some form or another. We don't know how. That's why I'm always saying open up to all the channels that you can receive from, because we never know how the universe is going to bring it back to you. It's usually going to bring it back to you through the path of least resistance, whatever the easiest way in is. But that law is always working. If you are giving, you're going to get. If you are giving, you are going to get, as long as you ain't blocking yourself from getting, right? Or blocking yourself from receiving. So whenever I said it's not a direct correspondence, an example of that, this is wild. So back when I was creating my first six-figure year, I was going all in. I was creating tons of different value. I was just trying lots of different things. Honestly, I was trying lots of different marketing techniques and ways of sharing the work that I was doing with the world. And I remember I wasn't getting any consults. I was building my one-on-one business, barely getting any consults. I might have had like 2 clients or something like that. And I don't even know if they were in my niche. Of course, I loved those clients, but I remember thinking, gosh, how do I attract more consults? And I just committed to continuously creating value, putting value out into the world. I practiced doing one new courageous thing a month and just practice for the whole month, getting good at it. So I remember like month 1, I started writing my blog, and every single week I would write a new blog. I would put it out in my newsletter. And that was month 1. I was like, I'm going to get good at weekly blogging. Then month 2, it was like, oh, I'm going to start posting on Instagram. So I would post on Instagram maybe 3 times a week. Actually, in the beginning, I think I did it every single day. I stretched myself and tried to do 30 days of posts. So I actually think I did that. But yeah, month 2, I was like, okay, so I'm going to do my newsletter, and then I'm adding on to that. I'm going to get good at Instagram. So I would put a post out every single day and do my weekly newsletter. Then month 3, I thought, okay, now it's time to stretch myself and get over my fear of video, which felt super scary, by the way. It was actually terrifying. But I committed to taking courageous action that year and doing the things that scared me and putting myself out there and really helping people. Really, that was it. Being from a place of service. So I was like, even if I'm not perfect, I'm going to just try to serve people through video. So I started doing Instagram lives once a week, and I added that onto my marketing list. So then, then I had my newsletters, my Instagram posts, and my weekly lives, right? And that was kind of my marketing plan. And I just got good at delivering that and just practiced doing it actually imperfectly until I got good at it. And I remember I wasn't getting any consults, and I was so frustrated. And I was like, gosh, there's only like one person who's even watching these lives, and I don't even know if it's an ideal client. I think it's a friend from high school or something like that. But I was just committed. I kept putting value out into the world in that way. And then I remember I started running Facebook ads. That's what I think I did month 4, was I went all in on learning Facebook ads and getting those out in the world. And I created a funnel around it, and invited them in to book a consult. And I started putting money into it and sharing my freebie with a bunch of people in the world because they started going out to ads and a bunch of people were getting my free checklist. Can't even remember exactly what it was, but that was all going out into the world. And I remember something interesting started to happen. It was like I totally amped up the amount of value that I was putting out into the world through Facebook ads. And tons of people were starting to get reached, but nobody was actually booking consults through the ads. But I started booking consults one after the other with organic people. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on? I don't even understand what is happening here, right? Was like, did you find me through Facebook ads? Oh, no, I didn't. I've been following you for a while. And I thought, this is so fascinating because the law of compensation is at work. Give and you shall receive. So I was putting out a lot of value. And it was when I really amped up that value and started running ads that all of a sudden it started coming back to me, but not through the same channel. It just, people started booking consults. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, this is wild. Like the law of giving and receiving, the law of compensation works, right? But it's just going to come through the channel that is probably the path of least resistance. So I thought I'm just going to stay committed to the ads and also fine tuning and tweaking those. But I also saw that because I was putting value out into the world in a bigger way, it was all starting to really come back to me. So I say that because it's not always going to be a direct correspondence. It's not going to be a, hey, this exact person signed up for a consult and you are going to put all the value into that. You're going to show up from service consciousness and really help that person. And it means that person's going to come in. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. That's why I like to stay super unattached and always have the intention of I only want the people who like really want to be here to come into my world. And if it's not that person, I want them to say no in an aligned way. So I come from a non-attached place and I don't focus on the exact outcome of whatever value I am putting out into the world. So if it's a consult, I started showing up in a way where it was like, let me just serve the person in front of me, knowing that it always comes back somehow, some way. And many times they would be a yes, but sometimes they wouldn't. But someone else would come in and say, hey, X, Y, or Z referred me and I want to work with you. I don't even need a consult. So I just saw how that worked, how it was just like, okay, all I need to do is focus on serving, focus on putting this work out in the world, focus on helping the person in front of me without attachment of if they decide to come into my program or to work with me or not. Because this law always works. And for me, that was so healing in business. And that was so healing around my relationship with money because I never felt like that person's the gatekeeper. That person determines whether I hit my goal or not. That kind of energy just feels bad when you're in business, like working with a potential client and you're thinking they're the gatekeeper of whether you hit your goal or not. It's icky. So that's why I think it's really important that we put value out into the world, but we don't attach to whether that value is what brings someone in or not. But we know that if we're putting it out there, it will come back on an energetic level. So I hope that's helpful for you. And it will be fun to even watch how that works. And I see so many people get stumped thinking, oh my gosh, I've been doing this, but I'm not getting very many likes or my Instagram account isn't growing. Yet, are you seeing where else you are receiving things? Are you seeing where else things are coming in? So just remember that if you are in service consciousness and if you are creating value and putting that onto the world, start to notice and open up your mind to the idea that maybe more is coming in than I'm realizing because I've been only looking for direct correspondences, right? So I'm excited to hear if that resonates with you. And as you kind of test that out and see how it works. In fact, I even had a client this past week who was saying she's a relationship coach. And she's like, I'm just not a fan of love languages because she said, I actually coach my clients out of believing in love, not believing in love languages, but by only receiving in love languages, right? Like, if this is your love language, then you're blocking yourself from seeing all the other ways that you're receiving love, right? So she loves to open it up and help her clients see that, like, maybe you can receive in many different ways. Maybe that's not the only way. That love language is not the only way that it's going to come in. And it's the same with money. And she said she started to realize that because, like, wild things started to happen for her as she tapped into abundance and tapped into service consciousness, started putting things out into the world. She started noticing how money was coming into her life in different ways. Random ways, even that had nothing to do with business at all, but seeing how abundance is a flow, abundance is an energy. And when we fully open ourselves up to receiving and seeing that it comes through so many different channels, we can see how this works and see that we never really have to worry about money if we're in service consciousness and if we believe it's possible. Okay, so I want to talk about a couple more ways that you can amp up the value of what you're putting out into the world. So, another way is to really grow yourself. And I know that's been huge for me in my business. I feel like sometimes my business, not sometimes, I feel like my business is a direct reflection to where I am at. So, every time I grow myself, whether that is mentally, spiritually, physically, whatever it is, whenever I expand myself, I expand, in wisdom and in skill, my business grows. That's why I've been such a fan of coaching and really hiring coaches who help me expand my mindset, because anytime I grow, I feel like my business grows. My business comes along with me, right? So if you grow yourself, you will see that your business will probably start growing, or other things in your life will start thriving. On top of that, the more you grow yourself, the more you can offer to others, right? The more that you can support others, help others, maybe through things that you have grown through. So that's absolutely a way to amp up the value of what you are offering. So anytime I decide, for example, to work with a new coach or to even work with like a therapist, whatever it is, anytime that I practice healing myself, or whether it's healing, whether it's growing, expanding myself, I see it as I'm amping up value, right? For my clients too. So that's another way to create more value without creating more time. Okay, another one that I think is overlooked so often, but it's one of the easiest ways to create more value in the world, is to over deliver to your current clients, to give them more than they pay for, right? I love doing this. Surprise and delight your clients, because they're going to be so appreciative. They're going to want to stay with you, if it's in the context of something that can be renewed, or something where, not only will they want to stay with you, but maybe they'll want to refer you. There's just this beautiful rapport when you over deliver. It makes people feel really good. It makes people feel held. It makes people feel like, gosh, that person really cares. So I always like to practice giving more than they think they're going to get, right? And like surprising and delight and thinking, what could I not tell them that they're going to get, but I'm going to give it anyways? Or even, I may not even do that. I may just think, like, throughout the year, like, oh, what could be a like fun little surprise for my clients, or what could be something that they didn't know they were going to be getting, and like surprise and delight them and over deliver. Just really help that person in front of you. That is one of the most amazing ways to create value. And I have some clients who literally don't even market their business anymore because they get so many referrals, because they really over deliver to the people that they have, and those people go out and refer them. So it's another business plan, and it is an example of value creation isn't just marketing yourself nonstop, right? This is another way. It's like just over deliver, right? Really love that person in front of you, care for them, come from service consciousness, serve that person in front of you, and it goes so far. And energetically, it works in terms of the law of compensation. You will be compensated for what you give. All right. And I'm going to leave you with one last little tip that I had thought about in my business, and a question that I ask myself often is I'm consistently asking myself, how can I help more people in the time that I have? Right? Like, how could I help even more people without taking more of my time? And that question has led to so many ideas for me. That question, in fact, is what allowed me to create my group coaching programs and containers, is because I was working with one on ones. And for one thing, I want to say that you don't have to move out of one on ones. I know a lot of people who have thriving one on one businesses, and they just practice amping up value creation by over delivering to those one on ones, loving the heck out of them, serving them, and compensation is the effect of that. For me, I actually really love working in groups, and it's part of my design is to build community and to support people in a group setting. And so for me, it felt aligned. I want to say that. But I also like asking that question is, how can I help more people in the time that I have? That's where the idea of a group came. And it just happened to feel really aligned for me. So that is how I birthed my group coaching programs, as I thought, I really want to deliver this work to way more people. How can I actually do that? Because I only have the same 24 hours a day as everyone else. And I also have this other values in my life, and I want to have balance, but I want to impact a lot of people. So I'm always asking myself that question. So that's where ideas like my podcast came, and ideas like creating a free mini course came, and my group coaching program, and even reaching people through Instagram and running ads. All of these ideas birthed from, how can I reach more people in the same amount of time, right? So I want to leave you with that question, because I think that also could be helpful to meditate on. It's like, how could you reach more people, whether that's in your marketing, whether that's in your actual programs or in your products and what you provide. Sitting on questions really makes a difference, because our subconscious mind will answer whatever questions we ask. So if we ask an empowering, powerful question that we want the answer to, like, how can I reach more people in the amount of time that I have? Your brain will come up with ideas and solutions if you sit on that question and if you keep brainstorming it. But most of us ask the wrong questions. We ask things like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get more people? How come they're not coming in? And our brain will answer those questions too. So I highly recommend shifting your brain to ask more empowering questions around value creation. The next question that I'm going to ask you is, what piece of this podcast resonated with you most that you want to implement in your business and you want to test out and play with? Because implementation, right? And you don't have to do all of these at once, but my hope is that you can do them one at a time and take one of the tips, test it out, play with it, and come back for another, right? Save this episode, come back to it and test another thing out after you've tried the first piece. So I'm very excited for you. And I want to just remind you that the law of compensation is always at work. And when you really know that you get what you give, you get what you give, you do not have to worry about money anymore. Just open yourself up to seeing that money comes through all different channels, and that it's an energy that's not always a direct correspondence, and that you can open yourself up to receiving more. We'll do an episode on that. But I wanted to leave you with one last thing. No, let me give you two last things with this. Number one, I really love something that Alex Hormozi shared in a reel that I happened to see. And Alex Hormozi is like a marketing guru, I think. I think that's what he is. I don't know what his exact title is, but I consider him kind of a marketing guru. And he said something that I thought, yes, law of compensation right there. He said, give and they'll ask, right? So if you don't want to be trying to get people all of the time and trying to get and sell, but not in the way of an empowering selling, but just like that sleazy selling, right? If you feel like you're always in that, you can shift to, ooh, what would it be like to serve, give until they ask. Because if people are served well, if you are helping people, they're going to ask, how can I work with you? It's universal law. I loved that reel. I was like, yes, law of compensation right there. Other thing I wanted to leave you with, if you like this and you want to dive deeper into the concept of the law of compensation, it's not actually called this in the book, but if you want to dive deeper into value creation, there's a fantastic book called The Go Giver. It's by Bob, and I'll put it in the show notes. It's just a wonderful book. I sent it to all of my masterminders last round. They loved it, and it might be something that you want to explore. So let me know what you think. Let me know how all of this goes for you. Come follow me over on Instagram at @JamieBerman_. Would love to hear from you. And I will see you next week.